Right, we are live. We're live on Amazon. So here we go. We're up and running. Gonna hit one more button here, and now we should have my vMix Social working properly. And yeah, so what we're going to be doing today, look at this little computer. This is a Windows 10 PC that is super tiny. And Jake started working on this the other day, and he was having trouble with it. So I said, bring it back, let me take a look at it. And I have not been having the same trouble that he's had with it. It was like overheating or something. So we're going to have to put it through its paces. But what intrigued me about this device is, first of all, it is small, as you can see. This is the whole computer right here. And it is running with a newer Gemini Lake processor. And I thought the specs were pretty good for the price point. So if I go over and look at what it has on board, so it's got like 128 gigs of storage. We did an unboxing on the extras channel of this. And if you're watching on Amazon, on the product listing for this product, we have that video posted. And it's got an SSD, like a little mSATA SSD on the bottom. So you can easily just swap that out. And what I think I might do here, oh, I see what's happening now. Hang on a second. We're getting some screen flickering, although it's not flickering on my monitor, but it was briefly. Must be on this end. There we go. Get that plugged in better. Oh, it's flickering again. It's weird because it's not flickering on the main display. It's just on my video inputs. Let me check and see what we got things set at. What I was about to say was that I've got this thing hooked up to my video capture and then looping back through. And the odd thing is the video capture is giving me nothing right now, but it's looping back in without a problem. So let me, yeah, see it's coming back. See what it's doing? It's like flickering on and off. Watch. It's not supposed to do that. So let me pull this out real quick here. And that's going to go out, see? And that'll go straight blue, and then I'll plug it back in here and see if that improves things. Because this was similar to the problem that Jake was having, which is weird because it's not appearing like that on the display. So I wonder if this thing doesn't like certain HDMI cables, because this is what he was experiencing. I don't know if Jake is watching right now, but that's what he was getting. So I think, and you know, I would say normally there's something wrong with it, but look, it's not. And again, I'm just looping right through. So let me get another HDMI cable out here. This is what happens every time we do something live. Things do not cooperate. Because what I wanted to do was do what Jake was having trouble with, which was getting stuff captured from this. Because he was saying the screen was going blank every time he did anything. And now it's just kind of frozen on the output. So I wonder if this thing is doing some weird stuff. We did install the Windows video drivers, because that was something that Jake was noticing was a problem. So we did update that to the ones from the Intel website. But yeah, we're at 1080p, 60 hertz, nothing crazy here. And like I said, it's working fine on the display, but it's not working so well. Let me go to 59 hertz here and see if that makes any bit of a difference here. Yeah, it still didn't change anything on the other side. So you know what I'm going to do next is I'm going to reboot the encoder and see if that's going to work. So what's funny is you don't see this here because it's looping back through just fine. This monitor is dealing with it. But that's what I get on the capture side. So I'm going to reboot the capture card here and see if that might fix things. So yeah, this is just I think it's an HDMI 2.0 cable. And we had this issue with multiple cables, and I suspect there might be something awry here. So here's what happened with this. All right, so now we're back up. Yeah, so it's still doing it. It's so weird because it's working fine on the monitor. So what Jake encountered with this was when we ran the 3D Mark stress test on this thing, and like I said, it's working fine on screen here. When we ran the stress test, after that he said the video was all messed up. And then he did the driver, and he was still having trouble. And this is what he was seeing all the time, this blanked out screen, which is so weird. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to continue to troubleshoot this. And I'm going to plug in my other video capture device, and I'm going to swap this out and see if it's the cable, the connector, or something else. So let's try a different one. I've got two of these NDI capture boxes. So I'm going to turn that one off. And then when this other one boots up, we'll see what we get here. So I'm going to do now is bring in the other box. And by the way, if I disappear, it's because my system crashed from this thing. All right, so now we're getting no signal, but that's okay, because that sometimes happens. So we'll wait for it to come back up here. And if not, I may try a different HDMI cable and see if that makes a difference here. Let's see. Sometimes a good little jiggle of the cable there is enough. Yeah, well, it's interesting because I was not having this yesterday plugged into my monitor, but we are having it now again. And like I said, we didn't see this happening until, this is from talking to Jake yesterday, or the day before. Jake said that it started after he ran the 3D Mark stress test. So what I'm going to do now is grab one of these cables. So I use these Amazon Basics cables, and so the one that's plugged in right now wasn't one of those. And the Amazon Basics tend to be like just the most reliable cables I have, even though they're the cheapest. And this is their like high-speed HDMI 2.0 cable. So let's try this out real quick and see if this will work. I have a feeling we might have blown out the video circuitry on this, but I'm not sure. Now, I'm not looping back to the monitor yet, so what we're looking for now is for a signal to get detected here, and we're not getting anything. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to turn this thing off and turn it back on again and see if maybe that will correct the situation. And I'll loop back. Actually, what I will do is I will use the other cable here. Yeah, so this might be a short stream, everybody, because Jake suspected, Jake didn't do anything wrong. We do this as a point of practice to make sure that these things are going to work. But what Jake did is he ran the 3D Mark stress test, which we always run, and he mentioned to me that after he ran it, he noticed that, I'm just going to plug in another cable here. After he ran it, he noticed the computer wasn't cooperating, and it kept going dark on him. So everything I just saw out of the capture board was what he was experiencing. And the weird thing is here is that we're looping back through this monitor here. So we shouldn't be, like it should be the same, like if we're not getting, if it's cutting out on one end, it should cut out in the other one. So let's boot this thing back up again and see what happens here. But yeah, this is what we were experiencing. Look how small this thing is. So I have a feeling that when we ran the stress test, we might have like blown it up. But we will find out for sure in a minute here. All right, so now I've got the loop out going again. So we should see something on the display here once it boots up. And if not, I'll plug it in directly, see what happens. So we will get there. And this is the beauty of live TV, everybody. You never know what's going to happen. Although I had a suspicion that we might have had a problem with this one. And in fairness, it worked fine up until we ran the stress test. Now, what's funny was I repeated everything that Jake did to cause the problem yesterday. I ran the stress test like 2 times. And then let me cycle the power to the capture board now and see if that does anything. So bear with me for 1 second, folks. I'm going to just do one of these switcheroos. Okay, and we'll turn that back on. And we've got that cable going in here. So yeah, that should get us going again. So let's see what happens here. And so the next step will be to plug directly in. What I wanted to do was capture game footage from this thing, which is turning out to not be something we're going to get done here. Let's see. But you know, I think it makes for good drama, like when you don't know what's going to happen. Will it boot? Will it boot? Well, it is booting, but we're not getting anything. The good news is that my thing now gives me a no signal detected, so that's a good sign. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll go back to the other one. Yeah, I got a feeling something's up with the HDMI on this thing. And so what we'll do next is we'll go back to the old encoder. And because I really do want to get direct capture footage as opposed to all this other stuff. And I'm going to just add the input back in. Because I have a feeling that we probably burned out the HDMI connector. And we didn't do anything that was irresponsible. We were just doing our standard testing. But it's so small, and if they don't have those thermals set the right way, you know, it could create a lot of trouble. And I think that's what we've got going on here. And this is why I test stuff, right? So that you don't get yourself into a situation where stuff don't work. Although I think this monitor is very forgiving. So I have a feeling that if I plug it directly in, it's going to work fine. But I don't want to take anything for granted here. There we go. Okay, so now, well, this is funny. Okay, so now, oh, we had an image, and now we've got this. Okay, so let's go, that's plugged in. So now let's loop the monitor back through. And let's see, oops, if we get an image. Yeah, so now we've got nothing. Isn't that interesting? Okay. I just got a text from my wife. So my daughter, my little one, hates playing in the snow, except when she's at school, because apparently she loves playing in the snow at school. That's weird. Okay. So, oh, somebody made a very good comment. Did the screen go to sleep? That was from Hulu's mom. Hulu's mom is correct. The screen did go to sleep. So now we're back. And it looks like we've got a stable image now. Let's see how long this lasts for. And yeah, let me log into this real quick. And maybe we can actually capture some footage. It looks like it's more stable now, so that's good. Now, what's interesting is that it did set itself to 59 hertz now, but it looks like oh, nope, it went again. Here we go. See? Boom, nothing. So watch what happens here. If I'm going to reboot it and see if something else happens. Because I have an image here, but the capture card is not getting anything. So let's reboot. And let's see if it comes back. And we'll go from there. All right, so I'm looking like I'm missing a lot of stuff here. So got a couple of holiday greetings from the UK. Let me start pulling these things up here so I can say hello to everybody. I missed a few of them, so I apologize if I missed you. So we'll start off with Michael Blake from the UK. We've got NC Strev from Maine. We've got Mark Dell. It says blow on the port. It may come to that. Although it's weird because what I'm seeing on the capture board is exactly what Jake was dealing with before. So check it out. Look at that. A lot of flaky video stuff here. So we're going to plug it directly into the monitor next and see if that makes any difference here. But I think what happened is we probably burned it out because this wasn't happening until so let me go grab this cable here. This wasn't happening until we started really stressing the system out the other day. And what Jake said to me was that it never came back for him. And so when it came back to me, I said, bring it back. Let me take a look at it and see. Because it gets super hot. And the HDMI connector, here, I'll show you on the overhead here. Oops. The HDMI connector here on the top is like right next to the fan exhaust. So I'm thinking like a lot of the heat is like right on that connector. So let's plug it back in here. And it was working fine up until, you know, we started really hitting it. And it's working okay now. But again, I'm wondering why, like, my capture stuff is rock solid. Like, I never have issues with the capture stuff. And so I'm going to need to test this a bit more on a few different displays because I have a feeling that this display is very forgiving for whatever's going on. So we'll keep playing around with it a little bit. And some suggestions here. Carboxylated says every I/O on small devices like NUC especially have an ESD pad atop the port on the inside. Yeah, I'll take a look and see what's going on in there maybe. Either way, it didn't start doing this until after we really started stressing it. So I'm going to need to do a little bit more work with this. But it was, like I said, the capture stuff I have never has this problem. If it shows up on one display, it shows up on both. So, and what was interesting was, so here was the chain of events. I handed this off to Jake, and then he did all of his testing. Now, one of the things that we do is we run the 3D Mark stress test, which is a test that runs a benchmark over and over again, and it runs it like 20 times. And what it tries to do is measure how much throttling, like how much does the system have to slow down to keep itself running at the same performance level. And after that test concluded, Jake told me what he was experiencing was exactly what we just saw on the capture board, which was like everything getting all flickery and out of whack. And so he couldn't do anything because every time he tried to load anything after that, nothing worked. He was able to get it working long enough to install drivers on it. So he installed the Intel video drivers to see if that might have fixed anything. It didn't change much. And then I said, just bring it back. Let me take a look at it. So I plugged it into my Samsung monitor over there. Worked fine. No problem. Plugged it into this monitor. No problem. But what's interesting was this was looping back through the video capture hardware that I'm using. So for whatever reason, the video capture hardware was getting the exact same problem that Jake was experiencing when he was trying to test this earlier. So I'm going to need to figure out exactly what he had in his workflow there to try to figure it out. But my feeling is that something, and by the way, this didn't start. This is the mystery of this thing, which we have to figure out. This didn't start until we ran that stress test, and then after the stress test, the video was flaky, and it never got better until it came back here, and then until now. So I'm going to have to plug this into like a bunch of monitors now and see which one is which here. All right, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to try to run some games on this thing. And this is not really a gaming machine per se, but you can often get some things to run. This is a Gemini Lake machine, so let me add a library folder here because I have an external drive that we have stuff stored on. This is a Gemini Lake machine, which is one of Intel's lower powered devices. So it looks like my drive isn't showing up here, so let me plug that back in. I have an external drive attached, but it's not seeing that either. Yeah, so I'm feeling like, just based on what we've been experiencing with this thing, that it's not something you're going to want to really stress, just based on what we're seeing here. And again, I got to really work on that video issue some more. So let me go select the other drive here and get that going. There it is. Okay, Steam root. Yeah, so I tried to run Rocket League on this earlier, and it crashed on me. It gave me a blue screen. So let's see if it does it again here. Yeah, so we've spent more time on this one than we have had on other ones lately. Generally, things just work, because we do the same thing most of the time. But this one's been a little more problematic. All right, let me go back through some of these comments that we got here. I got a super chat from Slappy McPhee, who says I should check out the NucBox. So we'll check that out maybe. Yeah, this thing, I thought the price was right for the specs on this one, because you get 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage for under $300. So that's not a bad thing. Alexis Lopez is asking, is this good for gaming? And I would say no. These things really aren't. But we try to run a few games anyhow just to give people a point of context. What it could be good for, and I'm just going to load up Fraps here also. What it could be good for is game streaming. So if you are using one of those game streaming services, we'll test one of those out in a minute. Those sometimes can do pretty well with this. There we go. Okay, not now. Okay. So let's go. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to connect up my Xbox controller. So let's see how this works. All right, so we're going to just go do a quick settings check here. Oops. And I'm probably going to set this at 720p. Because I think Jake didn't even get to the games because he couldn't even get them to load up before. So we're going to go down to 720p. And we're going to be fair here, because that's how we usually test these. And we're just going to say high performance for everything. I'm going to turn off all this stuff. I like to go super performance here. This will give us an idea as to like exactly where we'll end up. So we're high performance. We got VSync off. We're at 720p. I have to apply this because I'm pretty sure we're going to have to exit the game and go back in, because I don't think we're running at 720p at the moment. So let me quit this. It didn't seem like it switched resolutions for me. So let's run this up again here. Wait for that to stop there. All right. Yeah, if everybody's watching on YouTube, the lag to when I see your chat to the video is much less. So if you don't mind, I would love for you to follow me on Amazon. If you're watching on YouTube or watching on Amazon, that would be super helpful. And I'm just going to get the camera adjusted here because we're going to use some of this footage in our review. Like I said, I got to do a little bit more with this because I'm curious as to why the video is, we're having video issues on some displays and not others. But it seems like it's doing okay now, so I'm not sure what the heck's going on. But we'll get to the bottom of it. All right, so now we are at 720. Let me just verify that. So video, oh, we're still at 1080. Let's go back to 720. 720. All right, apply that. All right, there we go. That's what I wanted to see. Okay. And we'll go back here a little bit. Now it's frozen. Give it a second. Yeah, this thing's really like, and the little fan is like cranking away on it too. And by the way, what we're doing here is something we do on all these machines. Like, it should be able to run Rocket League at to some degree or another. Whether it will run it well is a whole nother story. But it's totally frozen up right now. Ah, see, this is how it starts. So let's see here. Yeah, this thing's totally not being cooperative. So generally, and this has been my experience, generally my experience with these mini PCs is that they do better than what we're seeing here. All right, so we're going to have to reboot this thing again. I'm just going to power it down and restart. And I think by the time it comes back up, it should work better. Yeah, as I said, we've spent, honestly, like, we've spent more time on this. Like, we look at a lot of mini PCs on this channel, a lot. And I will say, without question, we spent the most time on this one over the last 6 months, no question. And I don't know, and this is one of those things where I'm not sure if it's me or the computer. So or Jake. But, I mean, we have this down to, I don't want to say we have it down to a science, but we're pretty good at this point of getting these things to work one way or the other. By the way, I'm starting to see some video flakiness here. I saw a little bit of flakiness there a second ago. So let me pop back in here. Like, it was giving me a little bit of that HDMI staticky stuff. All right, so we're back. And let's see. Okay, so the drive is still mounted, so that's good. And the video looks stable now. So let's go back into Steam. And we'll try to run Rocket League again. All right, you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to quit out of... We also try to run Fortnite on these things, for the heck of it. Sometimes they surprise you, so... That's why you do this stuff. But we'll try some other games. I did run Half-Life 2 a little bit earlier, and that one seemed to be okay. And my rule of thumb with the mini PCs is if you were to go and find like a mid to high-end computer from 2006, these things would be close to where those were back then. Greg M says it could be thermal throttling. Yeah, it's very possible it could be doing that. All right, so let's try this again. So now we're back in here, and this is verified. It looks like it's 720p, but I want to verify that. Yep, we're good. And you know what I forgot to do? But you know what I'll do here? Yeah, let me quit. Sorry, let me quit one more time because I forgot to load Fraps up. And Fraps works well for demonstrating things. Alexis Lopez says Half-Life is a cool game. Yeah, Half-Life 2 is a great game. It's still great all these years later. And I think it came out in 2004. So it's pretty good. You know, the physics that they had in that game were very novel for the time. I remember that being something really cool. And you know, that was a game that I actually played all the way through. It had a great storyline. I got Half-Life Alyx on VR, and I just don't have enough time to, you know, to play it. You know, so that's been the tricky part. All right, so we're going to try to run this again and see what we get. And I can tell you the little fan in that thing is just like cranking away. All right, we're attempting to run Rocket League again, and now we've got more problems. Let's see. There it goes. Okay. Fifth time, is that what we're up to now? Fifth time's a charm. We'll validate our settings one more time. Video. All right, we're good. Okay, so we're going to do a... Oh, they changed everything, haven't they? Let's go into... I don't want to play online. I just want to play the exhibition match here. So let's go... Let's go to custom, maybe? Exhibition. There we go. And I kind of just do the soccer stadium 4 versus 4. And create match. I like to do this because it looks at kind of the whole of the CPU and the GPU. And we'll do an auto join. And I will just, I'm going to start recording here. Maybe 1 second. Let me just get my record set up. And hang on 1 second, everybody. Oh, my controller did not come on either. So many variables to get these things to work. NucBox B-roll. Okay. Yeah, so I've got just like a lot of time invested in this thing, and it's been mostly working around some of the issues. All right, so here we go. 720p, lowest settings, and we're doing about 30 frames per second. And it looks terrible, obviously, but it's playable, right? And then you can get an idea as to how you might be able to tweak the graphics further to get a little bit more out of it. And people are often surprised by this because, like, you would not expect to be playing a game like this at all. I mean, really, even at low settings. So that's what always surprises people. Now, you know what really intrigued me was the, is that going in now? Was the M1 Mac ran the Intel version of this game faster on the ARM processor than it did on the Intel. Isn't that crazy? All right, so that's good for our B-roll. Let me just mark the clip here because we're going to have this. So Alexis says that Half-Life Alyx has good reviews. Yeah, it's really good. You have to have like the really, for Half-Life Alyx, you need a really good system because it is obviously incredibly demanding. But if you've got a decent system, it looks amazing. Like, I don't know what they did to optimize it, but the graphics are in the VR environment are incredibly detailed and the sharpest I've seen in VR. Like, it's just remarkably good. Almost photorealistic. They're that good. It's just an incredibly well-engineered game. And I wish I had more time to play it. The problem is, like, with my kids and everything, I just don't have, and the weekend I'm working on this stuff, so I never have the time really to invest in VR like I'd like to. Although the last couple days I've been playing through the VR version of the Star Wars Squadrons single-player game, and that's been a lot of fun. So I would say, like, my two picks for VR games this year, easily Star Wars Squadrons, and the runner-up for me is Half-Life Alyx. What's nice about Half-Life Alyx is that it's a standing game, so you're having to stand and move in the environment, which is really, I think, what's so cool about VR is that you have to stand and move around. So it's good stuff. Okay, so we got one thing recorded there. Let's see, I got Shovel Knight on here. Let's record that. This I expect to run perfectly fine. But again, we still got to figure out why we're having video trouble on some displays and not others. This display is working fine. This display, this is a Lenovo display that I got a while ago. And it is the most stable. Like, it can take anything, and it just works. Rob Hanks wants to know, does it have a Thunderbolt port? It does not. It has a USB-C port for power. Oh, there we go. That's what I was waiting for. Now, isn't it funny it ran Rocket League without crashing, but Shovel Knight kills it? That is something. All right, let's wait for it to reboot. That's what I mean. I think there's some thermal issues with this thing. So we'll have to see what happens on the next run here. Let's see what happens after it reboots. And we'll try again. Isn't that funny? See that flickering? Yeah, something's up with this thing. So I'm going to, I don't even know. We'll see. I got to get back. I'm going to get in touch with them and say, look, we're having some flaky issues. And what I've, yeah, see, I'm seeing some flickering now on the display here also. And what I've found, when you have like a system that has a permanent thermal related issue, yeah, I'm seeing flickering now on the display. You can't really see it on camera, but I am definitely seeing some flickering there. What I've found with these things is that if you have something permanently damaged in hardware because of thermals, you will have these different things happen, which is what is occurring here right now. So we'll see what else comes up there. Yeah, we'll take a look at hardware info in a minute, too, to take a look at the temperatures. Let's go back into Shovel Knight here. I think what I'll do is we'll run that stress test again and like just put it through its paces and see what happens. And everyone's talking about the LarkBox. So maybe I thought that this was the LarkBox. I must have gotten confused when they reached out to me on this one. Let me see what that one looks like, because I don't think I know I've seen it before. LarkBox. Let me look it up. LarkBox. Oh, the Chewy LarkBox, right. Yeah, it looks a lot like that, doesn't it? Is that out yet? It does look like the Chewy has much better cooling, and you know they look very similar, don't they? Like the port layout is the same. I'm just looking on my iPad right now. Interesting. All right, let's take a look here and see if we can get this to work this time without it crashing. But yeah, there's that. I have a feeling that they probably did not tune the thermals here appropriately. Because now it's loading and running. Oh! See, that's exactly what Jake was experiencing. Did you see that flicker? That's what he said was going on. So why don't we do this? Why don't we pause the game, keep it loaded, and we'll go grab HW info, which I don't have, I believe, on this machine. So let's grab that real quick. But we may end up skipping this one if it continues this way. Am I on the right page? Hardware info. You gotta be careful with these downloads too, because you never know what you're gonna end up with here. I don't want the installer, just give me the portable one. All right, so we'll grab. See, this is what confuses me. They put these ads like in the middle of the thing. And normally I put an ad blocker on just to prevent that kind of stuff from happening. Okay, so grab this thing here. How do we download it? Download the beta. Let's just do portable. I'm going to go with the current, whatever it is. Okay. And we'll do a quick extraction here. What's funny, though, is that you would think a game like Rocket League, which would be stressing the hardware more, would result in flakiness, right? Okay, so temperature. Let's see if we can try find the temperature. Central processors. Sensors, here we go. So we'll take a look and see what we got here. And I would show you all the screen, but we can't get the screen to capture either. Okay. I'm just looking for the temperatures on here. All right, right now, it looks like it is running at about 63 C. So somebody do the math on Fahrenheit there. And we'll play this a little bit more. I can't see this game being all that strenuous. And let me get Fraps installed real quick, too, just so we can get a feeling for the frame rate. If not, I'll run the Steam one. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of flickering on the display. So I have a feeling my capture hardware was not able to yeah, so it plays fine. Oh, yeah, look at that. See that? I wonder if it relates to going to 1080p, because 720p was fine on the other game, right? So what we'll do next is we'll load up Half-Life 2 and see how that does. Let me get a recording going here. I'm approaching the decision here that this will be something we will probably not spend more time on, because it's kind of pointless to fully review something that has some significant thermal issues. But we'll play through it here and see where we end up. And what I'll do here is let me pause it here and see if the temperature has changed at all. I have a feeling that we have to run this sensor report again to get the most current update on it, right? It's not like a constant thing. And let's see what we got here. Yeah, so now we are at, you're about 64 C now. Yeah, so this is running fine. I don't have my frame counter up, but this is probably running at, at 60. It feels that that's what we're getting here. So that is good, although you saw how it was blanking out on us, right? So that's a problem. Okay, so let's quit the desktop. And now we'll do Half-Life now. And I'll come back to those temperature readings in a minute. All right, so let me close these things out. And we'll go over to, yeah, I'm seeing lots of flickering on this display. Let's go to Half-Life 2. And let me just log the clip. So we'll say 51, oops. Okay. And we'll go from there. And Half-Life 2. So you're getting a lot of trolls here today. There we go. My philosophy in life is you don't feed the trolls because all they want is attention. Okay, so we are coming up here. And we'll go into options here just to see what we have for display settings. All right. So there's a virtual reality mode for Half-Life 2. What is that all about? Okay, so we're at 1080p, and let's go to advanced here. I just leave this all like at the defaults. This is like at high settings, 1080p. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll load up a game, and we'll just go and pick it up from over here. This is where what we usually. Now I'm playing this with a ThinkPad nub. Don't judge me. Yeah, this is running at like 65, 70. It's a little bit jumpy, but I think it's just, yeah, I'm getting a little bit of screen tearing just because we're over 60. And let me record this real quick. Oh, there it goes again. See that? And that was what Jake was talking about. But he was getting it worse on his display. So like I said, I think there's definitely something afoot here. I'm glad we captured that, because I had the recording going when that went off that time. But I'll tell you what, this game is great. It's still good to this day. Yeah, I was getting killed by these guys here. By the way, I've been using this as like my little portable keyboard lately, and I absolutely love this thing. I love the ThinkPad keyboards to begin with, so to have like a portable one it's been awesome. All right, let me just stop recording there. Yes, I don't know what to do with this thing. It could be I got a bad one. One of the things that BB Garnett says, most reviews on this device are actually positive, but my experience has been the opposite. And you know what? There was nothing wrong with it until, and we're going to run the stress test again now because I want to see what happens when we put it under load for a good length of time here. And this is Shovel Knight. I have a feeling, and I keep bringing this up, but like I just repeat myself. I have a feeling that whatever we did when we ran the stress test initially likely damaged something from the heat that was generated. And I'll show you what the stress test looks like. So we'll see what happens here. BB Garnett says it claims it can stream 4K YouTube and Netflix. Yeah, actually, it should be able to do that. And the reason is that this is the newest revision of Gemini Lake, and it has an HDMI 2.0 port on it. And I believe before I sent it off to Jake to play with it, I did connect it to my 4K display, and it can do that. These Intel chips are very good at this at video decoding, even at 4K. And actually, if we're able to, this thing's able to work anymore, you can actually use these as Plex servers because these support hardware transcoding. So they're much better than you would think. Because Intel takes a lot of the hardware acceleration on their more expensive chips and put them on these little ones. So we'll see what see what we get here. Rob Hanks says, an unexpected kernel mode trap is one issue that shows on the BSOD. It's mainly caused by a bad or outdated driver. Yeah, we'll take a look at the drivers next. I did update. This has the latest Intel graphics driver because we installed that after we started having trouble with it earlier. So what we'll do now is we'll run the stress test on it for a little bit and see what happens. Drewy says, is this a fanless PC? No, it is not. It is running hard right now. And it's been running constantly. You know, what's funny is that we dropped out of that game, like, you know, like it wasn't doing anything for a while, and it was still blowing pretty hard. The problem is, here's what I think is the problem, is that it's bringing in air from the top here, and it's blowing it out the back, and it blows that hot air out right above the HDMI and the power connector. So it's got a lot of heat building up in like one spot here. Now, by the way, this test, I do not expect this test to run well. This is how it runs on every Gemini Lake PC. And what we're looking at here is not, we're not looking at performance, we're looking at its endurance. In other words, will it die in the midst of running this test? Because this is what Jake said, like it was running fine up until he ran this test and let it go for the duration. So we'll have to see what happens. So again, like if you're watching this thinking, oh my gosh, it's so slow, it's okay because it's not supposed to run very fast. This on like a high-end gaming PC, you're lucky to get it into like the 30 or 40 frames per second territory there. And Raise the Roof is asking, what game is this? So this is a benchmark called Time Spy, and this is something that 3D Mark puts out. They're a subsidiary of Underwriters Laboratories, and they have a great set of benchmarks that just about everybody who reviews computers uses as at least one of their measurements. And they've got some, and I think it's like a $30 software package, and they have some like add-ons and DLC you can get. What's cool is that they've got a new benchmark as part of this suite called Wildlife that runs across multiple platforms, so you can compare like how an iPad would do versus an Intel PC. There's some pretty cool stuff. So it's neat. So the benchmark we're running right now is their stress test, and what this does is it runs a benchmark over and over and over again. And what it's doing is seeing if the computer slows down when it's placed under load for extended periods of time. So that's what it is doing right now. And what I wanted to do is just let this run for about 5 or 10 minutes and just see what the temperatures are looking like when it finishes. Mark Smith says, update the Windows drivers. Yeah, I'll take a look at the drivers in a minute and see if that has any impact. But like I said, we didn't have any trouble with this until we ran this test, and then everything started getting flaky. And so that led me to think that something overheated or got hot enough that it did something. So we'll see what happens here. Master Kalok says you shouldn't pay for benchmarking. Well, it depends on what the benchmark is. I mean, they have some development costs on this, right? They've got to, design these graphics and do all this stuff. What I like about their benchmark suite is I bought it once and I didn't have to pay for any updates, and they just added a new feature. So when the test concludes, it gives you some predictions as to how certain games might run on that particular device, which I thought was pretty useful. But these have been good, and I've been running this benchmark for the last 4 or 5 years, so you're able to get a, kind of a good sense as to how different computers perform against others. It's also a really neat way to look at over time how technology progresses, right? Metro North Rail fan is here. Hello. Greg M says it needs liquid nitrogen cooling. Yeah, that might be the way to go on this one. And like I said, we're doing things that like the normal person maybe wouldn't do, although here's the problem when you review mini PCs is that I think the buyer of these are enthusiasts, right? Like you want a cheap extra PC to play around with, and if it's going to fail, that's going to be a problem. Jeremy Carrillo says, would GeForce Now or Steam in-home streaming work? Yeah, actually, these things are really good for that kind of thing. We're going to check out GeForce Now in a few minutes because what works so well on these little Intel chips is video decoding, and that's really what in-home streaming is all about. So yeah, these little Intel machines do really well as gaming terminals. So you can connect up to Stadia or to Luna or to GeForce Now. I've been playing around a bit with Shadow, which is really cool because you get like a fully functional Windows PC in the cloud. We're going to do some videos on that soon too. Damon Abbott's wants to know, do I think it can live stream with an A10 Mini? You could. You could plug in into Zoom. You could do something like that. Yeah, these actually do okay at basic streaming. What I would not do is, I mean, you could run something like OBS on it, but you're really pushing your luck. But I think if you had the ATEM do all of the video input and you use the ATEM to switch sources, then it's just a webcam, and that's something this will do quite well. Intel had designed these chips initially to a large degree for tablets. So they have a lot of video optimizations on the encode and the decode, especially for like lower end tasks like a web conference or that sort of thing. So you could totally do that. I've been surprised that the Ryzen, those inexpensive Ryzen computers do really well at that also. I set up somebody with an A10 Mini and a Ryzen laptop, one of the cheaper ones, the Ryzen 4500U, and it does really well with that. But again, the ATEM is doing a lot of the video processing, so that makes a big difference. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of hot air coming out the back of it here, but it's not like terribly hot. And the case is getting pretty warm as this is going. So Redacted wants to know, why bother testing gaming on it? Well, we look at a lot of mini PCs, and I think it's good to know what the limits are because, believe it or not, the Intel graphics on these cheap Gemini Lake chips are actually really good for certain things. Not for this, obviously, this is killing it, but basic emulation they do really well at. Like a lot of people build these into like arcade cabinets for emulation. You can play older PC games on it, like we saw with Half-Life 2. So they're not completely out of the question. And when I review these mini PCs, there's so many different reasons to own one. It's almost a given that you can run Microsoft Word on it. It runs quite well. It's almost, at this stage of the game, it's like, why waste the viewer's time? It will run Microsoft Word and run a web browser. So the question is, what else can we do with it? So that's kind of the way it goes. But what I'm doing, and the reason why I'm running this test is I want to see if it's going to conk out on us like it did before. So the chain of events here, just to recap everybody, is we've been having some issues with this computer with its video output. And the issues began for Jake when he ran this test. So we're going to run it again here and see exactly what's going on and what the temperatures are when it finishes up. Metro North Railfan says he thinks it would be interesting to see an AMD variant of this. Yeah, you're going to start seeing more of that. I did review a larger PC, a NUC size PC, not too long ago from, who did that one? It's on the channel, and that one was pretty nice. But it was a Ryzen 3500U and not the new 4500U. So you'll start seeing more mini PCs with Ryzen on there. But here's the thing. Intel upped the ante with the new Tiger Lake. So the Tiger Lake now is better graphically than AMD is, but that'll change. It's good to see some competition with all this stuff. So Damon says he's trying to set up a live streaming setup for the church and was thinking about using that, but I think I need something. Yeah, it's, you get what you pay for. My advice would be, a good Intel-based laptop if you have one around. Even something like a 6th generation laptop will, with an ATEM mini, will be fine. Because when you have the ATEM, it takes a lot of load off what the computer would otherwise be doing. My go-to now on this stuff is I really like vMix. That's what I'm using right now to stream. And I found that to be, kind of the most robust, but you need some hardware for that. You need an NVIDIA GPU, you gotta have some horsepower behind it. Just checking my outdoor cameras. I think the UPS guy was just dropping something off. But I'm not expecting anything today, so. All right. So yeah, so this is what I do all day, in case you're wondering. We test computers and see if they are worthy of getting covered. And this will go on for a little bit more here. Yeah, Mark Smith, has the paint dried yet? Yeah, this test I think goes for like 20 iterations, and it's taking it longer to run because it is so slow. So, but again, I just want to be thorough here, which is why I'm doing this. So we'll take some more questions here while we're waiting. Let's see what we got here from. I'll put some of these up on screen now that I forgot I have this thing here. And give me 1 second here. We'll pick it back to our creator app. One man says, what's my policy on this kind of stuff? Do I always reach out to the company? Yeah, I do reach back to say, hey, look, we're having trouble with it. Because look, if it's a device with a problem, it could be that it's just that one device, so I'll reach back out to them. So I'll give you a very recent example, actually. When we looked at the Lenovo laptop, the 15-inch one, what is it, the 7i15? It had 12 gigs of RAM. And I was noticing it had a Tiger Lake processor, and I noticed that for the processor it had, the results we were getting on the benchmark were much lower than I expected, given what we had seen from other computers with that same processor. So I reached out to Lenovo to say, hey, I'm seeing this score. This doesn't seem right. And they sent back to me the scores that they got running on that with the same benchmark. And sure enough, it was because it had 12 gigs of RAM. So yeah, I will go back and ask them about it. Have them send me another one maybe, and we'll run the same test on it and see if it overheats. In this case, it could just be that it's just not well designed for this kind of thing. We'll have to see. Redacted says he put a, yeah, you could do a lot of fun stuff when you take things out of their cases. Pick a broken Windows tablet, put it in a 3D printed case with some cooling. Yeah, and by the way, don't look at this test as an indicator of its performance, because that's not what this test is about. This is really about its endurance, not its performance. David Martin here says that AMD has leapfrogged Intel. They're actually leapfrogging each other, because the Tiger Lake chips now are performing a little better, but AMD now has their 5th generation system, the 5000 chips, coming soon. So I expect it to go back in the other direction. We'll see this ping-ponging forever. But Apple's beating them all right now. But as far as Damon goes on the church streaming thing, here's my thing on streaming. You want to go with the least aggravating thing, first of all, and the lowest cost, because it's a church stream. You're not getting a million viewers. You're trying to reach the congregants and keep them engaged. And what I have found in the religious setting, because I helped a synagogue out with this recently, you know what worked really well for the synagogue? Was Zoom. Because they were live streaming forever in the hopes that the community would watch, and nobody was ever watching, because every Saturday morning there was 1,200 other synagogues all streaming at the same time. So what they decided to do was look at it from the standpoint of, how do we have this remote engagement, because we're not congregating in the congregation right now. So they went with the ATEM Mini, had like 2 or 3 cameras hooked up to the ATEM Mini. For one of the High Holy Day services, they had somebody do a really nice video of the choir. They have a synagogue choir. It's a Reformed synagogue, so they have choirs. So they had a choir, and they recorded the choir in separate places. He mixed it all together, and then they would roll in the video over the ATEM from a laptop, and then switch back to the, you know what I mean? It worked really well. And what was cool was that when they wanted to bring somebody in to do a reading, we had a Zoom operator, and that person would queue up the person who was going to do the reading, and they would read into the Zoom thing. So the congregants could all see each other if they chose to, if they turned their cameras on, and then they could interact with each other, and it just worked out really well. And what was nice about using Zoom as the streaming platform was that it alleviates a lot of the issues that you run into with a connection that may not be the most stable, or so in the case of YouTube, for example, for those of you who were following me before I got my super expensive fiber optic connection here, we would constantly drop out, right? Like we constantly drop because of interference on the line, who knows what. So when we dropped, YouTube would stop the stream and the audience would get dumped out, and you'd have to start a new stream to get back on again, right? Zoom, if you drop out for a minute, you just drop out and then you come back. The meeting still exists, and I think that's again just less aggravation. And again, the downside is that you're not streaming out to everybody, but you do have the option to do that with Zoom if you wanted to. And so for that synagogue, Zoom was great, and the ATEM works great because it just plugs in like a webcam to the Zoom, to the computer that's running Zoom. It's on a pretty low-cost laptop, and it's easy to operate. So that worked out really well for them. And I like OBS, but if you don't want to be the one running it every time, I think Zoom and the ATEM are really easy to show somebody how to do. Jeremy here says that he did something similar for his buddy's wedding using Zoom and OBS. Yep, you could do, whatever works, But yeah, you could have OBS be the switcher. And again, I like the ATEM Mini because it's an appliance. And what's great about it is that you plug it in and it turns on. There's no software running it. It just works. And I always like things that just work, that I can just get going here. And to some degree, once you get vMix set up, that's what I'm running on this computer right now that I'm doing the stream with. vMix for me has been rock solid. I built the computer that's running it. It just runs and runs and runs, but you need a lot of hardware, expensive hardware. So, the Zoom thing is, if you don't want to stream out to the world, it's pretty good. Redacted, it says, did Dan Merle from the Screen Junkies reach out to you? He tries to do streams like this. He has not, but I'm happy to talk to him if he has questions. So send them my way. So Drewey's church has a 1 gigabit per second connection, so you should be fine now with that. Is that symmetrical 1 gigabit, or is that the 1 gig down, 35 up that Comcast offers? Find out from that about that, because that would be helpful to know. Metro North Railfan says, you know what I'm going to do? I'll pull up his comment here. It's a long one, so we'll pull it up on screen so you can all read it here. He's planning to get his 25th laptop with his Christmas money, going to be an AMD Ryzen 3 32. Yeah, those are, so there, I looked at the Acer one, and that one's on Amazon. It's a Acer Aspire 5, I believe. I think that's the one it is. And it's great. It's good. The 4500Us are a little better graphically, but sorry for the paint drying thing of this. It just takes a while. Jeremy says, I wish you could get 1 gigabit symmetrical on Amazon here. Yeah, I've got, what we ended up having to do here, so here was what the issue was with my connection, is that I'm in kind of a rural suburban area. So we have 2-acre subdivisions, so a lot of distance between homes, not a lot of density. And up in my neck of the woods, there's just a lot of interference on the coax cable wires. And it was just constant, just could not get it to work, and reliably. what's funny is the synagogue I was just talking about, they're on coax, not too far from here, no problem. They could stream for 4 or 5, 6 hours straight, not an issue. But me, always had problems. So what I was able to do was I was able to talk Comcast into letting me get the Gigabit Pro service that they offer. Now, this is surprising to me, everybody. I got this the other day, and I wasn't sure if this was legit or not. But we got 99.3 on the stress test, which is quite unusual. I'm just going to put some notes in here, because that is like a super good score. Isn't that crazy? So let's scroll down. You all tell me what you want to look at here. So we'll look at CPU temperature. And right at the end, wow, so it ended up at 75C right at the end. But it was hovering around 70. Let me pull this back up here. It was hovering around 70 the whole time. So let me just go update my notes here. I'm just keeping notes on this. So 70 degrees C. And we'll check out hardware info and see what the max is on it after that. 70 degrees C, although it finished up. What's funny, it had a burst of on the CPU frequency, so it immediately throttled down, as you can see here. Let me pull this up. Oh, interesting. So it immediately throttled down, like right when it got started. It had like its little burst, and then it was running at about 800 megahertz the whole the whole time. Let me see what it. Yes, right now it's at 2.6, but it went right down, like right when it got started here. I got to start talking more about the CPU frequency here. So right when it got to the end, it then went back to its little burst there, and that's also when the temperature spiked to 75. But it was pretty much running at 70 throughout. And the score was 99.3%. And it likely got this score because it turned itself down so quickly that it just ran consistently at that lower speed. I think that's what happened here, because the frame rate stability was 99.3%. So I would love to get some of your insight, everyone who's watching, on this. So it throttled so quickly that it didn't show up on the test, I think, is basically what happened here, which is fine. I mean, you're going to be consistent. It's just consistently not fast. But that's what you're going to get out of something like this. This is not, you know, a super high-end computer here. So let me go back to hardware info real quick. Yeah, so I'm not sure what to do with this thing. I mean, it's running the basics here. And that part it's doing okay with. But again, I got to hook it up to more displays and see if we're still getting those display issues. All right, so let's see what the max temperature was. I'm missing the... Yeah, so this is still showing the maximum at 65, but the test results gave us, you know, some indicator that it was running hotter than that. So I don't know, maybe I should have left that hardware info running the whole time, I guess. Yeah, so I'm going to plug this into more monitors and see how it does a little later. And Damon says, can it run Crisis? It can run anything, just not quickly. All right, so what else could we run on here? Well, we could run... Do we have the wildlife test on this? Let's see if it shows up on the list here. Port Royal, Time Spy. Where's wildlife? Here it is. Let's just put wildlife on for the heck of it. We just got to download that real quick. Yeah, so that's the thing with this. So I'll try it on a few other monitors, because what was odd was Jake got to a point with it where he couldn't even work with it, because he was not able, like what you saw when we first started with all the black screen stuff, that was what he was seeing throughout. What's interesting is that I was seeing some flakiness on the display, and I'm not seeing that now, so it's doing better than it was before, but we still can't get that stuff going. So yeah, Mark Smith, we will definitely try that out. Mark Bollinger, happy holidays to you, my friend. Thank you for your support. Jay wants to know, does it run Doom? It will run the old Doom, not the new Doom. But we will, after we run this test, we will boot up GeForce Now real quick and try out something on that. This is a fun test because this one's super fast. And I'm running this just to see how it compares to like some other devices that are out there. And Slappy says it can run some GameCube. Yeah, actually it can do some GameCube stuff, depending on the game. Yeah, what's weird is that now that it's been up for a while, it's doing much better than it was before. But again, I think of all the monitors I own, this is the most forgiving one. And by the way, this is called the Wildlife Benchmark. And this is their newest one. And what I love about this test is that it runs on multiple platforms. So it runs on Android. It's the same test, runs on Android, Windows, iOS. So you can get a good comparison between different devices. And if you go to my benchmark spreadsheet, Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can actually compare this to other machines that we've run this test on, so you can see exactly how it runs. So my preliminary result here is 1183, which puts it down into like Snapdragon 765G territory, so like similar to what you would get on the Google Pixel 4a phone. But what I'm going to do real quick is run this again, because I did not run it in unlimited mode, which is what you want to run it at. So let's go back to Wildlife here, and I think I can select, yeah, unlimited, here we go. Now what this test does is it renders the graphics off screen. So it's just, in my opinion, a better way to run it. But yeah, it's doing better. So we're going to have to plug this into a couple of different monitors later and see how it does with that. And we'll let this go real quick. And what you won't see happen this time is you won't see that the footage that we just saw. It's not going to play the thing out. It's going to render it as these little tiny squares. You'll see it kind of showing up here. Oh, are we crashing? I spoke too soon that it was cooperating. There it goes. Nope, it's doing what it's supposed to do. That's normal. That's what you're supposed to see, because it renders every frame as a little square. And when you do it this way, there's no other factor that's impacting its performance. Redacted wants to know, is it loud? It is loud. It is a bit loud. I've heard louder. Let's put it that way. So some of these gaming laptops and stuff will be definitely louder than this, but it's definitely got some noise to it. Metro North Railfan says he has a good analogy. It is like a turbocharger in an engine. Yeah, it'll spin up, exactly. You'll hear that thing kind of spinning up there. And, oh, I missed Toys Are for Boys. I'm sorry, I hope you're still watching. I missed your super chat earlier. Can I run real temp from Tech Power Up on it? Yeah, I'll try to get that in the future for this. I'm sorry I missed your super chat earlier. All right, let's see if this thing what happens here. Okay, we're still going through the test. This is all normal. What you see here is normal. Redacted wants to know if I tried the micro SD card slot. I have not tried it yet, and I don't have a card handy on the desk here, so I'll have to play with that a little later. All right, so now the test should be concluding, and we'll get a score here. It's very warm now. Like it's definitely using the metal casing as a bit of a heat sink, I think. Mark wants to know how many fans. It just has one fan, so it sucks it in off the top, and it blows it out the back. I would have preferred for it to go the other direction, where it would suck it in from the back and blow it out the top, but that's how it works. We'll do a little G-force now in a minute, and then, yeah, I'm going to do a little bit more with this thing. Mohammed Noor wants to know, where can you buy it? You can get it on Amazon. I got a link in the video description. So you can check that out, take you right to Amazon, and you can see how it's functioning. All right, so it's almost done. And in case you're just tuning in, this is the computer right here, that little tiny box. And yeah, I got another 15 minutes here or so, and then I gotta run. Because I got to get tonight's video ready for you all to see. I got a cool switch dock in the other day that lets you hook up GameCube controllers. So we have a full review of that coming up. So that's going up tonight. Slappy's got a Lark box, so I'd love to check it out. Do me a favor, email me at Lon@Lon.TV, and maybe we'll take a look at that. Does that have, what does that have for a processor? I think it's got the same one as this one, right? Because this has got the, I can tell you exactly what it has for a processor. This has a J4125, which is the Gemini Lake refresh. So they recently refreshed Gemini Lake with a little better performance. And that's what this one has in the tank there. You'll notice this benchmark is taking much longer to run. So I'm not sure what's going on here, but we'll find out when it concludes and see what score we get. Mohammed wants to know if I tried the Lenovo Y700. I actually own a Y740, and you can search my YouTube channel and see my review of that. I've actually been using that for over a year now, and we'll see. Mark Smith says, any lockdown in Connecticut? We don't quite have a lockdown per se. I have obviously curtailed my activities quite a bit just because I have no need to go put myself or others at risk, but we do not have any significant restrictions. But that can change if the hospitalization numbers change, so that's why it's conditional. Okay. Loading results. And, okay. Yeah, about what we had before. So 1008. Yeah, so this puts it right in line with what we got out of the Google Pixel phones this year. And let's get the temperature on this one. And this was running at, oh wow, so it was running about, this is interesting. So remember the other one was running at about 70. This one's been running around 75 the whole time. And actually it got as high, and this is Celsius, it got as high as like 78, 79. And let's see here. The average frame rate was 6.04 FPS. Yeah, it's right in line with what we saw on those other machines there, GMK NucBox. And this is an Intel J4125. Okay, interesting. Oh, so there's two versions of the NucBox, Ziggy says. There's a Pro and a non-Pro. Oh, the LarkBox, got it. So the Pro version uses the J4125. Yes, this one has the same as the Pro LarkBox. John Early wants to know, am I more interested in the PS5 or the Xbox? Well, I bought the Series X. So I did so because I've owned an Xbox since the original. So I've got a lot of stuff that I just carry forward with every generation. I had a 360, which I really liked. The Xbox One, I never really got into it as much because I kind of went back to the PC for gaming around the time the Xbox One came out, because the PCs were so much more powerful. But I got the Series X just because it's good to have at least one of the next-gen systems, and I was able to get one. I bought it. I didn't buy it from a scalper. I just happened to log in at the right time and got one. So we'll have to see. Rob Hanks wants to know what the read-write on the SD card slot are like. I will test that. I'll take a look and see. I don't expect much out of that. I'll have to plug in one of my high-performance cards there. Mansoor Khan wants to know, does this auto start after power fails and returns? You might be able to make that setting in the BIOS. I'd have to check. Right now, from what I see, if you unplug it and plug it back in, it doesn't turn back on. All right, so we're good there. So let's do GeForce Now, and then I got to head out. So let's see. It's funny. It seems like it's more stable now than it was before. So that's a good thing. All right, so we're going to grab... I probably should buy Cyberpunk on the PC. I had it on the Xbox. It ran okay, but I was disappointed that it didn't run well on my other Xbox, because I have two of them. And so I did the refund. So I might buy it on the PC. What they should do is like offer it at a sale price now, so everybody gets it on the PC. All right, so let's go and run the GeForce installer real quick. Oops. And go down to downloads. And we'll just run this real quick. Thank you, Slappy. I'll take a look at your email later tonight. Mohammed wants to know, can you play games on it? Yeah, if you rewind the stream a little bit, you can see some games we played on it. Not ideal for gaming, although older games work fine. Stuff like Shovel Knight works fine. A lot of emulation is good on these things, like MAME and stuff work great for some of the older games, for sure. And now we're going to check out GeForce Now, which is game streaming. Now, I did plug in, I've got this Ethernet adapter. If you're watching on Amazon, I have a link to it. This is a USB 3, and it's a USB-A connector on the other end. Ethernet hub, it's got gigabit Ethernet, but it also has 3 USB ports on it, which for this computer works out great because it only has 2 USB ports on it that you can actually use. So, I wouldn't plug in anything super powerful, but I have the keyboard dongle for the keyboard that I'm using in the first slot here, and I've got 2 more for a mouse or something like that if I wanted to do something along those lines. All right. All right, give me a second here, folks. I'm just going to log into my GeForce Now account, and we'll see how it streams. Now, what's neat about GeForce Now is that you don't have to buy games again. So if you have, let me log into my NVIDIA account here. If you have a Steam account, or I think it works with Epic. Yeah, I think it does work with Epic. I think it's Epic, Ubisoft, and Steam. So, and now there's caveats to this, as there tends to be all the time now. But if you have an account with Steam, a good chunk of the games that you own, you can play on your GeForce Now account. But they have some caveats to it. One of them is that you need to ensure that the company that makes the game wants you to run it. So, hang on, I'm just waiting for that to come up. Okay. So some of the games used to run on GeForce Now don't, because the developers decided that they don't want their game streamed, which is weird because you paid for it, but whatever. So that's why something like Shadow comes into play, because like Shadow just gives you a computer in the cloud and then you can boot up that way. All right, so here we are. And let's load up a little No Man's Sky here. Now, what we're going to do now is we are going to play this over the network. So this is going out to the GeForce Now server, and it's going to run on the remote cloud server and stream to us over my gigabit, multi-gigabit connection that I have here at the house now. Not to brag, but I have multi-gigabit. 2 gigabits in both directions. Isn't that crazy? Paul Edwins wants to know, would it be useful to use as a live stream encoder computer? Here's what we had some conversation about this a little earlier. My philosophy on all of this stuff is that you get what you pay for. So if it's mission critical, I would not buy the cheapest mini PC you can find to run it. But if you've got something, low mission criticalness, like we were talking earlier about, a small congregation, a small church or something, that could be okay. So it could do that. Like I said, I think it's probably better if you're doing something with an A10 Mini or some other thing that can handle the video processing, and this is just pushing the signal out. You could do like a Zoom kind of thing with it. That would work. Now you'll see this locked at 60 because we are actually connected to the GeForce Now server over the internet right now. And you know what I forgot to do, though, is I forgot to get my controller on before I started the game. So we're going to quit the game and then restart it. So let's try that again. Mohammed wants to know, do I always play with this controller? It depends. Depends what I have in front of me. So my favorite controller is the 8BitDo controller that I have. It's the SN30 Pro Plus. It's like a Super Nintendo PlayStation hybrid controller. And I like it because it's got a great D-pad and it puts it PlayStation style over here. So I use that one a lot. And what's nice about that controller is it works with my PC and it works with my Switch. But the Xbox controllers, I've always liked the Xbox controllers. The ergonomics on them are really good. All right, so here we go. I'm seeing a little more of that flickering I was talking about before again. So I'm really eager to plug this into other monitors later and see what happens. Sam Champ wants to know, if I reviewed an internet over power line adapter? Yes, and all of them are not good. I've never had a good one. What I recommend, and go back to my channel, you'll see some stuff. I really like the Mocha adapters. Those work really well. So what I'm seeing, and this is not a GeForce Now thing, you probably can't see it on the stream, but I am seeing these little speckles of HDMI glitchiness happening here. And I'm sure this has been happening throughout. And again, this monitor is really forgiving for this kind of stuff, and my video capture hardware isn't. So some questions about GeForce Now from AZ24. Is it a pay service? It is a pay service. I think it's like $5 a month. They have a free tier, so you can try it for free with limitations. But you have to, the games you bring yourself from the services that you use already. So for example, this is No Man's Sky that I purchased on Steam, and I'm able to play this game through GeForce Now. And what's cool is because I'm using, and I do this all the time, because I am on my Steam account, it will sync my save game up. So sometimes if I can't sleep at night or something, or I'm just winding down, I will grab my game controller and boot this up on my NVIDIA Shield in the bedroom. And I can play the game streaming, and then when I go back to my gaming PC, it's right back where I left off. It's really cool. So that can be really neat with it. Here we go. All right, so, and now granted, remember, everybody's just tuning in. You are not watching this thing play this game. This is streaming over GeForce Now right now. And yeah, a little flaky. Now we are using this USB adapter, and I have found, let me start the recording again. I have found with GeForce Now that it gets a little laggy initially, and then it kind of speeds up later. And I'm not sure why that is. It's been an issue with it throughout. And we got to charge my launch thrusters here. Let's see, where did they go? That's my spaceship. Where is the launch thruster? Did they change stuff? It looks different. Oh, maybe I just put it in here. Okay. So charge my launch thruster. Okay, so we can take off. And we'll see how this works. But it looks good. It's working. Now, what I love about this game, No Man's Sky, is the exploration that you can do in it. So the lag here is not the fault of the computer. It could be this USB Ethernet thing we're doing right now. That could be part of it. Because if the USB is kind of clogged up, that's going to create some issues. But you know what we'll do is we'll go fly to this planet. And that's what's cool about this game. Any planet you see, you can land on. And there's trillions of planets. I forgot the total number of planets you can visit. This planet happens to be a moon. And what we can do here is just kind of go into a spot that has some daylight. And we'll just settle her down right down here somewhere. And we'll just record some B-roll here. So again, this is GeForce Now, not the computer. We're streaming the game over the internet. And we'll come in and land. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the default GeForce Now performance level is like a 1080 with RTX ray tracing features. So it does the ray tracing, and it'll give you like a GTX 1080 kind of performance. I might be wrong about that, so let me know if I am off the mark considerably on that. But I think that's the gist of it. And we'll just find a nice spot to land over here. Maybe we'll land over on this side of that cliff. And you can land your spaceship, again, on any planet you want. And you can get out, walk around, explore. And there's a story that it has, That's pretty cool. It's one of my favorite games. And there's a VR mode, which is awesome. So you could, this entire experience, if I had my VR with me, on a more powerful computer, of course, I could pop it on my head and immerse myself. And what's cool is you get a real sense of scale. Like, you see, so for example, like right now as I'm walking around here, again, a little laggy, but you can see the frame rate. This is the frame rate that the computer is outputting. So the lag we're seeing is on the GeForce. Actually, no, that was the computer. So it's got a little lag on the streaming side. Yeah, because that fraps is the local frame rate. So it's having a little bit of trouble keeping up on GeForce Now here. But what's cool about the VR mode of this game is that when you're in the VR mode, you get a sense of scale that you can't appreciate when you're playing it third person. So for example, see where this guy is on the tree trunk? So when you're in VR, your point of view is from his head, right? So the tree looks so much bigger. It's really cool. It is so cool. So like, especially when you've been playing for a while just on the TV, and then you jump into the VR, it's like, whoa, I didn't realize the scale here. It's just remarkable. And they added a bunch of new features to the game. They've improved the graphics significantly, and now you have like these cliffs and all this other stuff now. So it's got better, just the terrain looks more varied than it did before. Oh, there's one of our blackouts again. Yeah, the video is just not right on this thing. So it's really cool. I just love this game. And like I said, you could go through the storyline. It's got a basic storyline, but it's really just kind of a, I don't want to say it's like Minecraft. It's because you can do some Minecrafty kind of things like build your own bases and whatever. You can kind of do whatever you want. There's a really neat multiplayer aspect now. We had this thing I was playing with my daughter likes this game because she likes creative kind of games. And we were playing one night. So there's a Reddit group, and they had a community planet. So this is all that glitchiness we were seeing before. So with the community planet, you go to the planet, and there's like bunches of bases and players out there. And then the players kind of moved out from that system and settled some of the neighboring systems. So you'd run into people all the time playing. It was really fun. So there's one day we were playing in one of the connected systems, and this player was looking for an item that I happened to have. And it was so cool. He found us on a planet, met up with us. I exchanged the items with him. And he was in VR, so he did a really funny dance. And my daughter loved it. It was really cool. It's just a neat game, especially because like you could play this game forever based on where you start and never see another player. But if you look around, you can encounter other players if you want. In fact, you can now summon like this little space station that has the ability to find other players. Yeah, so we're back to these video glitches, and this is what Jake was talking about. So there's something, I think, hardware-wise with the HDMI connector that is messed up here. But it's a cool game. I think it's just a neat game. And it's gotten so much better. So when it first came out, everybody was, you know, they made a lot of promises, and the original game, you know, didn't have the depth that they were promising. But now they've made amends on that, and it has the depth, it has the multiplayer factors that were missing before. And it's really turned into something cool. Mohammed wants to know, how do you get the frames per second counter? This is something called FRAPS, F-R-A-P-S. So you can check that out. And if you're just tuning in, this is GeForce Now. This is not the computer playing natively. There's no way it could run this game like this. And we can just land in the space station here, and I'll save my game, and we'll move on from there. Yeah, so we're seeing some video issues here, and like I said, I'm going to have to play around with this a little bit more. Okay, so we get out here and save the game. And then what will happen here is that, you know, again, we're on GeForce Now. What's going to happen here is that the game got saved, and then when I quit, it's going to sync it up with the Steam server. So when I go back to my desktop computer, it'll sync right up. And Chosen Architect wants to know what game this is. This is called No Man's Sky. Really fun game. So there you go. And I would say this was a good session. My computer wasn't running so well here that we're testing, but it was a good session. And so what's neat about GeForce Now is that, you know, these games are games that I own. And you have to sync your library up with it. So I did do that the other day. So like, these are the games that I own that I can play. So I have more games than this, but these are the ones that I can play that I own. And unfortunately, based on how some of these developers have been behaving, like the list was much longer when I first got into GeForce Now than it is now, because the developers have restricted GeForce Now from playing these things, which is, you know, not cool, but what are you going to do? All right. So I think I've got enough to go on for now. I'm going to probably need to do a little bit more to test out the video problems we're having, because I'm seeing some of what Jake was seeing. And I think here, let me just make I'm going to make the background here just all black, because that's where I'm seeing some of the, I'll choose this darker background. I just want to see if I'm seeing some of that flickering. But I'm not seeing it now. So I'm going to have to, like I said, I'm going to plug it into a few different monitors and see if it still acts up. The fact that my video hardware was flaking out tells me that we did something to it when we ran that stress test the first time that probably screwed up there. So that's that. Damon says, can you run this game natively? You could try to run it. It would run like molasses. I would say probably 10 or 15 frames per second, if that. This hardware is not well suited for that. So Paul Bakewell is here. Hello. Redacted says the church in his hometown was one of the first churches to stream on YouTube. They were fully prepared. They do 3 streams a week before the pandemic. Now they're going daily. Yeah, I think once you get a system in place, that's why I think too, like especially for houses of worship, you know, if you're, here's my advice to you. If your local synagogue, church, mosque, whatever, if they're asking you to help them with streaming, the best thing you can do to help somebody with streaming is to show them how to do it. Because otherwise, you're going to be the one that has to be there every time. So my advice is set up something that is almost bulletproof from the standpoint that you can train 5 or 6 volunteers, show them how to turn it on, and what you want is something you can turn it on and hit a button. That's ideal. And that's why the synagogue that I was helping went with Zoom, because they knew how to use it. And then we hooked up the ATEM Mini for the cameras. It's an appliance. You plug it in, you turn it on. There's no software, there's no configuration. Well, there's software, but you don't need to use it. You plug it in, plug the cameras are plugged in. All they got to do is turn on the switch to the power thing, and it all works. Hit Zoom, hit the thing, done. And just about anybody can use it. So that's what's worked well there. All right, well, folks, I got a jet because I got to get tonight's video going. And tonight we're making pizzas at the house with the kids, so I've got to be freed up before dinner time. And they'll be home soon, so I got to get moving. But yeah, I'm going to do some more testing on this to figure out what's going on. I suspect what's happened is that we likely did something to overheat the video connector, and that's why the video is so flaky on this. So we'll have to play around with that a little bit more. All right, and we'll go from there. All right, Perks Media says, it's okay, everyone, I'm here, and I'm leaving. So, sorry about that. So, in any event, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, both on Amazon and on YouTube. And if you don't mind, definitely follow me on Amazon if you haven't already, because I do these streams all the time. Sometimes sometimes they're just like work sessions, like I just did today. So, in this case, we're in the process of evaluating this computer. We've had some issues with it. So I wanted to continue doing that evaluative work, and I have a little bit more to do now because I need to check and see if it works with other monitors as somewhat well as it works with this one. So we have to do that. And sometimes we shoot videos. Sometimes we have something more pronounced. I'm going to probably do some like retro-ish streaming this week. So I think I might have some free time like Christmas Eve, so maybe we'll do like some Sega Saturn or something. So that might be kind of fun. So we'll see what happens there. Thanks for the kind words, Perks. So yeah, sometimes these streams are just kind of sometimes they're a little bit more structured, and it's always different. So if you follow me on Amazon or on YouTube, you will, and well, on YouTube you got to hit the notification thing. If you follow me on Amazon and you've got the app installed, when I go live, it'll notify you on the Amazon app. And what's nice on the Amazon side is that the delay is significantly less between chat and me. So they're fun to do. And I know a lot of folks, like Damon just mentioned, loves the streams. And what's fun is that it's, a lot of people are at work or you're working from home, and it's just kind of a fun way we can all just spend time together as we continue to be locked in our homes, as I am, on purpose. So there you go. Perks rebuilt an original Xbox for retro. Those are really good for retro gaming for sure. So yeah, good stuff. All right, everybody. So yeah, so be sure to sign up for things there. And by the way, the app that this streams through is not the Amazon Prime Video app, but Amazon Shopping. So what's worked out really well for me as a creator is that I review products, and Amazon sells products. So when I do my live streams, they link my videos, or the stream like it's doing right now, they link it to the product page. So if you go to the product page for this thing, you'll see the stream kind of right in there, right at the moment. And I'm always looking at different stuff, so it's a lot of fun. So yeah, so we'll go play around with some things there. But yeah, I think I've got, so here's what I was thinking about for retro streams. I've got the 3DO, which has always been like my favorite retro console. I bought one of those in college, so like I just remember being done with college or being done with my first semester of college, and I had just bought the 3DO like 2 or 3 months earlier, so there was like a lot of good stuff coming out for it. So I just kind of binged on the 3DO after the stress of finals was over, right? So I have that memory of like just chilling out with my 3DO, being done with school for the semester. That was a fun memory. So I often liken this time of year to my 3DO for that reason. So maybe we'll do some 3DO. I've got the Saturn with that optical drive emulator, so we could play some old Saturn games that I never really got to when I was a kid. And then I found in the back, so tonight's review, let me go get this real quick. So tonight's review that you'll see tonight is of this Nintendo Switch dock. And it looks like a little GameCube, but it's a Switch dock. And it's got the connectors for your GameCube controller. So if you wanted to play Smash Brothers, which supports the GameCube controller, or you want to play Mario Sunshine from the new compilation that came out, it works with the controllers. So I was curious if it worked with the Wavebird, and I see, you know me, I don't throw anything out. So I have my Wavebird controller from 20 years ago, whenever I bought it, and it still works. So I found it in my bin of stuff out there, and it works with it. So you just plug in the thing there, and you can use your Wavebird wirelessly with your Nintendo Switch. Pretty cool. It doesn't work with all the buttons, so you know, if you've got the current Switch games don't work as well, but Sunshine and Smash Brothers do work with it. Works great. So that's something to look at. So in any event, as I was looking for this, I found a whole bunch of PC Magazine demo discs from back in the 90s. And they're all there. So maybe we'll boot up a couple on a live stream and just kind of play with a few of them. That might be kind of fun. And I've also got demo CDs from the 3DO that we could play with too. So maybe I'll do like 2 streams of just that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So Mark Dell wants to, did I find my Sunshine? I did find my Sunshine. So it is in my box of games here. So we're in good shape. All right. Mark Dell says, stupid meetings. It's like people pay me to work. And Mark Dell works all alone in a big building right now. So it's fun. Mark Smith says, Heretic. Yes, so Heretic was a fun game. And it was funny because I either had, I think it was a shareware game at the time. And my roommate was playing it. And he had his headphones on listening to the game. And I guess there's at one point where it starts like chanting, and it totally freaked him out. It was kind of funny. He's like, you gotta play this level. It starts chanting. It's like totally crazy. So it's good stuff. I want to thank Slappy McPhee and Toys R for Boys. I'm sorry, Toys, I missed your chat earlier, your super chat, for your super chats today. Much appreciated. And I am going to now get tonight's video uploaded of the dock so you can see exactly how it performs. But yeah, it's a fun little dock. I got this in a while ago, but it wasn't for sale right away, so I just kind of waited until it was available. And we had a stream the other day when we were trying to get it to work, and I had to plug it in. Long story. You'll find out all about it. So. All right. Well, I thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back again. Maybe I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see. I've got to figure out what I'm going to record tomorrow. I've got I want to do this this Plex video, which depends on this thing working, and it also depends on my router working. So I got a bunch of stuff I got to figure out. So yeah. So that's where we're at. And we'll go from there. Perks Media, I'll answer a few more questions here. Perks Media wants to know, do I do any home theater content? And I have. I haven't done much to my home theater lately, which is why I haven't done any. So the last one I did was, I think, when I got the Atmos speakers, and I haven't done anything. Like, I got it to a point where it worked, and I'm happy with it, so I've just kind of left it. But I will do some Plex stuff this week, because one of the things that we might play around with, because I have this fast connection now, is can you stream a 4K Blu-ray without any transcoding? Why not? So a friend of mine in town just got the same service I have, so we've been sharing our Plex servers with each other. And what's funny is that, like, you can do it, by the way. I was playing movies from his Plex server, and it was just like working like he was on my own network. But we're plugged into the same hub on the head end, so it's like we're on the same network. We're like right next to each other. So I'm going to try to do it with my shadow server and see how that works. Rob Hanks says Road Rash. Yes, in fact, Road Rash was why I bought a 3DO. That was why I got one, because it was like I was at the store. So here's what we would do. My freshman year of college, every Tuesday and Thursday, we had a period of time on my campus. They called it happy hour, but they called it that not because it was when you go to the bar. It was because that was when all the clubs and organizations met. In my freshman year, I wasn't involved with any clubs. By the time I became a sophomore, I was in the student government, and I was always in meetings after that. But we had basically everyone had a 3-hour window, Tuesdays and Thursdays from like 10:30 to 2:30 or whatever. So we would go to the mall, which was about 15 minutes away, and we'd get lunch. They had this great burger place there, and we'd just walk around the mall. And we were walking by Babbage's one day, and they had the 3DO running with Road Rash. And you have to appreciate the fact that there was no, outside of the arcades, you didn't have 3D accelerated video games, hardware accelerated video games running at decent frame rates. And the 3DO was like running this Road Rash game, and it looked like you looked at it like, oh my gosh, like you'd never seen something like that before on a home console. And they had just dropped the price of the 3DO. So this is back in 1994. It was originally $799, which is, who knows what it is today. Let me look that up. $799, 1994 in 2020. So $799 in 1994 was, let's see, was about $1,400. So it was expensive. And so, super expensive. So you didn't get it. But then they dropped the price from $799 to $399, and that's when people bought it. So I got it. And because I had, I had a little job and no expenses, right? So I bought the 3DO. And one of my friends almost dropped out of college because he wouldn't stop playing Road Rash. he would skip classes to play Road Rash. I felt like an enabler. But it was awesome. It was totally crazy. So they eventually ported it to the PlayStation and to the Saturn. And what happened with the 3DO, we'll talk about this when we stream it. And I still have like my original 3DO. It still works perfectly. I can guarantee you when we start streaming with it, it will crash and that'll be the end of it. It was so good. And so we played that a lot. And there was so many there was a very short window where there was a lot of great games that came out for it. They had FIFA Soccer. EA did a lot on the 3DO. So Road Rash, FIFA Soccer, many other games were EA games because Trip Hawkins, who was the CEO of EA, left EA to start 3DO. And 3DO was going to be a licensed IP, and it wasn't going to be a single manufacturer of game consoles. So they licensed it first to Panasonic, who made the first one. And then Gold Star, which is now LG, they had one. I think Sanyo made one as well. Creative Labs made a card for your PC that could run 3DO games. LG Artist did a whole thing on it. So it was really cool. So lots of, it was just, they had some great titles. Some argue that one of the best home versions of Street Fighter II was on the 3DO. And it did a lot of things really well. It had hardware accelerated graphics, had an ARM processor, had a fan to cool it off. It had really good video playback quality. So there was a bunch of full motion video games that were actually fun. They had two game show games that I liked. One was called Twisted, the other one was called Zadnost or something. So there was just a lot of good titles for it, but it was all in a very compressed window of time. So I think it was at its peak. These game consoles, they have their peak, and the peak is usually like a year or two. The 3DO's peak was like 4 months, 5 months. So they had some great stuff. And then Sony came up with the PlayStation, and Sony invested so much money into launching the PlayStation that the 3DO crowd, they just could not compete. Panasonic's a big company, but they weren't as big as Sony. And they put in so much money to market that console, and then they sold it at $299. And it was arguably more powerful than the 3DO. So that was the other factor. And that was it. So it lasted a long time. But I loved the 3DO. I always picked the underdog consoles. I had a Sega Master System, good console, but So I felt vindicated when the Sega Genesis became something, but that was it. All right. So yeah, so maybe we'll do some of that. It'll be kind of fun. Maybe over the holiday week, we'll stream some stuff. I used to do these retro videos every holiday, where I would go back in time and play with something like it was new. But I've reviewed all of it already. So maybe we'll do some retro gaming streams or something. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk to you all in a little bit. I'll be back with some more streaming. So follow me on Amazon if you don't mind. Follow me here, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff.